given to us by the state and the large piece that was given to us, that's given to us by local taxes, the little piece doesn't go up. So when there are increases in the budget, the percentage of the budget paid by local taxes goes up. We are also leasing new buses, as we discussed at the local level. There are some things that this budget does not represent. Some places where, well, many places, but these are some significant places where the school committee decided not to fund. First of all, there are 2 state mandates that we are not funding for next year. There's now a state mandated mentoring program, which we are funding at the APS level, and we are not funding at the regional level. We, again, took out the $50,000 of the SPED contingency fund for the regional level, as we did for the local level. And this is the second state mandate we're not meeting. There's a state mandate that every student at the high school needs to have 990 hours of instruction. We are not meeting that mandate next year. We have told the Department of Education that we are not doing so, and there are 2 reasons for not doing so. First of all, philosophically, we do not believe that every student would benefit from the same schedule. To unilaterally say that every student needs 990 hours is not reasonable. Secondly, we've tried a variety of alternatives. We've taken these to the DOE. Even if they accepted all of our alternatives, we still could not get to 990 instructional hours. Just to give you an example, I have a son who's a junior at the high school. He has 1 study every 6 days. He is taking all academic courses. He does not meet 990 hours. Okay? We are in discussion with the commissioner about that. If we met that 990-hour requirement for next year, it would be close to $500,000 in extra expenses. And lastly, we have not restored that maintenance position as we chatted about at the APS. We felt we needed it, but again, it did not seem a reasonable extra expense at this time. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Zimmerman and Bill Ryan to see how we got to this budget, which is very similar to what you've heard.
It is indeed a very similar process. Although we know we have 2 school districts, we try to work as if we had one. We look at the children from kindergarten to grade 12. By the time they're grade 12, they're no longer children. We have the same 4 goals that I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to show them to you again. And again, we have the same budget guidelines. They operate K-12. I want to show you one example of 3 guidelines, 3 different ones. One of the guidelines is to always improve materials, supplies, and equipment for our students. This is the regional. At the junior high, we're proposing to spend $215 per student, and at the high school, $244. Whenever I do this, I always ask people to imagine how much you could get if you went into a store with your teenager to buy materials and supplies for a whole year. This is what we give essentially to each child, student, young person. Another guideline is that we pay attention to the charter schools. As you know, there are some charter schools in the area. The one that we send our children to, or which our students tend to go to, is the one in Air. And we are assuming for next year that we will have 6 more students. We have been told by the state that we should expect for this year a $128,000 reduction in our Chapter 70 aid. We don't pay outright for students who choose to go to the charter school. The state deducts from our Chapter 70 aid, so we pay indirectly. The third guideline that I want to mention is that we have to pay attention and actually pay back the salaries of teachers that were deferred a couple of years ago. This starts in FY97 and goes until 2011. This is the amount that we need to build in every year for a total of this amount at the bottom, $715,000. The budget doesn't show a line item for deferral, but the assessments do show it because it is an annual obligation that we must pay. The next section is, again, the same metrics that we used last year and that we used at the local. We're requesting a budget of $15,548,406. The amount increase is about $1 million, and it is a 7% increase in the budget. The drivers are similar to the ones in the elementary schools. Enrollment growth, we're anticipating growth of 42 students. Over the last 2 years, we've had a growth of 66 students. This is 7 through 12. Again, special education is our biggest driver. These are needed services at the junior and senior high school. Lee's mentioned the investment in junior high teaming. One of the drivers of the increase is junior high restructuring for teaming. For program improvement, we are adding some staff to the high school. And then we have the same problem of reallocating from revolving accounts. In this case, it's from the athletic revolving account and from CASE, the Concord Area Special Education Transportation account. These are pretty self-evident. Health insurances for new staff that we'll be hiring. The new buses were already mentioned. These are all the drivers. And again, this is re-emphasizing what's already been said. A big driver is sped tuition. A big driver is sped transportation. Mrs. Stuntz explained the debt service adjustment. And then this is the same as we said at the local. It's step increases, it's column changes, it's the schedule increase, and then all the other categories in the budget go up by an inflationary rate of 3%. Again, a history of the budget over 5 years. I'm sorry if it confuses people. Sometimes it's true, we do compare 2 years, and sometimes we do compare 5 years. In this case, what we're trying to show you is, in fact, the gradual increase, no question about it, over the last 5 years. And again, it's mainly people. It's people in the classroom. It's people in support positions. It's custodians. It's secretaries. It's bus drivers. It's everybody who works in the school system. But we bring in staff because we need it, not because we are an employment agency.
I'll try to be brief here on the enrollment projections. Again, if you looked at the Acton-Boxborough column, you would see actually that would be 196 students from Acton-Boxborough, increase from 92-93 through 97-98. In terms of school choice, we have 56 additional students during that same period of time. The total increase for this 5-year period is 252 students. In terms of average class size, during the period from 92-93 through 96-97, average class sizes have increased slightly at the junior high school, and they've remained relatively stable at the high school. This chart shows you the number of classes at the junior and senior high school that are below 20 students and above 20 students. The number of classes both at the junior and senior high schools above 25 have decreased during the past year. You can see at the junior high school, we've gone from 79 to 22, and at the high school from 79 to 68. That's good news. In terms of professional development, it was mentioned earlier that the Education Reform Act has set a target of $50 per pupil for professional development. And you can see that in the proposed budget, we've reached that goal, and you can see the percent of the personnel budget that goes for professional development. In terms of certified staff, has increased by approximately 8 full-time equivalents. The proposed budget includes 3 teachers at the junior high school. It's really, one is for growth, the other 2 really relate to teaming. We've added a full-time sped teacher at the junior high, 2 teachers at the high school for new electives. Lee's mentioned earlier, 0.4 for full-time athletic director, another sped teacher at the high school, and the balance of that increase is in the areas of speech language, and a school psychologist. In terms of non-certified staff, they've increased by a little over 3 FTEs, full-time equivalent staff. This increase includes 0.5 special education assistant at the junior high, 1.6 computer lab assistants at the junior high, 0.5 health assistant at the senior high, 0.5 assistant for the academic support center at the high school.
Our famous pie chart, the proportions are a little different, and that's partly because at the local level, the town covers some costs that at the regional level we have to include in our budget. For example, debt service is covered by the town at the local, by us at the region, and workers' comp and things like building insurance. This is the state support for local schools. At the region, it's a little bit greater because we get more transportation aid, and also because our state aid at the region was built on regional aid that was an incentive to school districts to regionalize. So it started out at a higher base than the local base. So we continue to benefit from that. We thought that you would be interested to see the relationship of the town budget to the school budget. The town budget is 36%, 36.46%. The Acton Public Schools is 34.06%. The regional assessment is 27.76%, and Minuteman assessment is 1.72%. So this gives you a picture of the entire town's expenses and our relationship to them. Back to the issue of choice, again, you have the history, and this is a somewhat lopsided bell-shaped curve, but actually it's beginning to come down, and it will in fact come down very, very quickly because, as Lise pointed out, we're adding our last 10 choice students at grade 9. I take the point that was made earlier about generosity and balance it against the obligation. It's quite correct that education is the obligation of the adult community for its children and actually for its future. So it could have a little bit of self-interest in it. But this particular slide does represent both generosity and entrepreneurial efforts, because what you see again is what parents contribute. This is what school choice contributes. This was, I suppose you could say, entrepreneurial in Acton, Boxborough. Corporate gifts and the parent volunteers, parent fundraising, and at the regional level, we have another local education agency that provides us with funds, and it's called ABSAV. I won't repeat the 4 challenges because, frankly, the challenges at the regional level are the same. It's space, it's lack of choice, it's the infrastructure, and it's growing enrollment. We present a lot of numbers to you at town meeting, mainly because we think that's what you want to hear about, that you want to hear that we're doing an efficient, effective, legal, moral job. But really, as someone said, one of the parents said, or I assume it was a parent, I may not be a parent, one of you said, this is really about students, it's about children, it's about our future. And we're here asking for money, not for the enterprise to continue for its own sake, but for the enterprise to continue for what it does for our students, for how it prepares them for the future. So I would ask the town meeting's approval of the assessment in the amount of $10,705,049. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Mullen.
The Board of Selectmen recommends approval of this article.
And the Finance Committee, please.
The Finance Committee has had lengthy discussions on the substantial increases in this regional school budget. The increase in Acton's appropriation is 9.6% this year. Although we have grave concerns in the rate of increase, we understand that it is being driven by increases in enrollment, the loss of choice funds, and increases in sped costs. This year as last, we are reducing our free cash balance to fund the needs of the town and the schools. Some of these are recurring costs. We cannot continue funding recurring type costs out of free cash indefinitely. It will run out. We also anticipate the need for future bonding, for school expansion, et cetera, as you have seen in the capital plan. The free cash balance can affect the bond rating of the town. Note our concerns for the future. We recommend that the school committee and the school administration take an even harder look at containing costs while continuing to deliver the excellent services to all of our students in the coming years. We understand that this is much easier to say than to do. It may take a very novel approach, since the main drivers are not coming down. Enrollment is predicted to continue increasing, sped costs are predicted to keep increasing, and choice funds will continue to decline. Independently of these concerns about the rates of increases in recent years, we reviewed the proposed budget and recommend it. We believe that the schools are attempting to deliver a quality product to the students at a competitive price. We can't afford this budget this year. The Finance Committee recommends a vote in favor of the regional school budget as proposed.
I recognize Mr. Cady.
I have a major complaint, I think. All the good stuff's been left out. Last year, people came here and said, you were supposed to give us, we'd like to see a report. We don't want to just see budget numbers. We'd like to see what the accomplishments are. If you're going to give a report to the people of the town and ask them to spend millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, the two of them, I'd like to know what the accomplishments are, what your performance standards have been, what our students have been doing, how well they're performing in relationship, how our money is spending and is giving us results in comparison to other towns. And we used to have a major document that you would give, and sometimes spent in the presentation. Give you 3 examples right off the top of my head. The girls hockey team, state champions, a lot of controversy, very proud of them. Now they're going to get funded. You know, I heard they did. That's a question. Number 2, the state plays. We just won the state play competition. We're again, 5th year in a row, we've won the decathlon, right? The state, 6th year in the state, we're going to the Fed. You know, if I go to a corporation board meeting, I like to and get a report about a budget and projections. I like to hear accomplishments, and I would like to hear what your accomplishments were, if not in part of your, and not just a bunch of numbers. I go over the numbers weeks and months ahead of time before we come here. You're on television, I can watch you, I can go to meetings, I can pick up the books, I get stuff sent to me home. I know a lot of us, Mr. Cadillac in particular, knows these numbers inside and out by the time we get here, right? And we should have been involved in that process, and we shouldn't be involved in getting only a bunch of numbers fed back at us. So please, don't take 20 minutes to half an hour and don't say anything good about what we've done.
Dr. Zimmerman.
Actually, I got so carried away with trying to finish a little earlier that I neglected to say that it is always a source of pride for all of us to see how well our students keep performing. Just Sunday, I opened the Globe to discover that AB was one of 3 winners of the Globe State High School Drama Festival. The next day in the paper, there was an article about how our heavyweight made the all-scholastic wrestling team. You mentioned the decathlon team. Our art students and our music students continue to compete on a state and national level at very, very high level. Our students continue in the upper 90s to get into colleges, of first-class colleges. And we are very proud of not only their accomplishments, but the accomplishments of our staff, because we always think of it as a triad. It's what the parents provide, the students have, and the teachers bring out. And that combination makes us a very special school district. I do a lot of traveling around the country, and I do a lot of work with my colleagues in the state. And every time I meet them, they say, my God, there we saw you in the paper again, meaning we saw A and AB in the paper again. So you're quite right. A lot of credit goes to our staff. Our kids behave and perform extremely well, and that's why we ask you for all of this money, and that's why we give you all of these figures. And if you're telling us that you don't want all of these figures, we'd be happy to change our presentation.
Ms. Seifley.
Jean Seifley, 5 Sandy Drive. I'd like to begin by commenting on one very positive change in the current budget. I think implementing teaming at the junior high has been an incredibly positive change, and it's created smaller communities of learning in that environment that I think replicate some of the benefits we've had in our elementary schools, where we've had 5 small schools and a lot of creativity. I'm very troubled, however, by what I see going on in the high school. I see a very old-style management structure. I heard the superintendent comment at the December school committee meeting that it really hasn't changed in 50 years. I see a budgetary practice and structure that is very sort of stuck in a status quo mode. I heard a proposal to implement smaller communities of learning in the high school, which were along the lines of teaming in the junior high, and I was troubled to see that not $1 was allocated to that proposal this year. I'm troubled by budgetary practices that just take last year's spending and add to it and don't really look critically at how that money was spent and whether it can be reallocated in new and different ways to accomplish positive results. I'm also very troubled by the SPED numbers, because SPED is growing at such an alarming rate that it just consumes all the available money for other creative programs. And I mailed to the school committee members, and I want to call to this group's attention what's happened in Concord, as it was recently reported in the Boston Globe. Concord schools took the step and put the emphasis and money back in the classrooms, and they've reduced their SPED rate to, is it the lowest SPED rate in the state. So I think that there are alternatives to how we do SPED, and that we really ought to look very, very critically at those. So I want to acknowledge some very positive things in this budget, and I also want to acknowledge, I ask you to recognize that I have some very deep concerns about the budgetary practices. Thank you.
There's no one else standing. Dr. Zimmerman, did you have a short comment?
I do need to make one correction. I did not say that Acton-Boxborough Regional High School has not changed in 50 years. I said that high schools in general all over the country have not changed in 50 years. In fact, Acton-Boxborough Regional High School has changed in the last 5 years. One of the observations made by the high school principal is that the change is slow but inexorable. It is happening.
Do you want to flash that in my eyes for some really good reason, Don? Or just a perverse sense of humor that you have? Yes.
The other comment that I'd like to make, and actually we knew that it was coming because Mrs. Seifley did in fact send us all copies of that section of the Boston Globe article I referred to earlier, is the example set by Concord. This slide, which is old, as you can see, what is a representation of the fact that we did look at what Concord is doing when we did the SPED review that was alluded to earlier. And what we feel is great admiration for them to be able to transfer costs from SPED expenditures to regular education expenditures. They spend about $2,000 more a year per student. So they have smaller class sizes. And in fact, it is a generally held belief that smaller class sizes allow for better instruction and also more easy inclusion. That is to say, you can bring in special education children into a smaller classroom and give everybody more attention. That's a given. So we think that they have this enormous advantage with both of those features. What I think is interesting about this slide, though, is that, and again, remember, this was in 1990 and 91, and 1993 and 94, and again, we're using state figures. We did this last year, we're using state figures. State figures are always 2 years behind. But what this shows is that for the 2 years in question that are shown up there, the percentage of students in special education in Concord did decrease. It went from 20% to 13%. But what is interesting to me and a little perplexing is that the per pupil expenditure went up. So they were spending $6,269 when they had 20% of their students in SPED, and they were spending $6,533 when they had 13% of their students in special education. So what we have concluded is that it's probably a good idea to go and talk to Concord again to see if what we observed at that time, and you can see that we stayed very constant. We went from 13 to 14% in those 2 years, and you can see that in fact our per pupil expenditure went down, but that's also the year we lost the override. So what we're feeling now is that we probably should go back and talk to Concord again and see if there's something that we're missing that we should look at to see if it can influence us and how we operate so that we can achieve some of the results that they apparently are doing so well.
I'll recognize the lady at the back microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Sandra Whaley, One River Street. I'd like to move the previous question.
Do I hear a second? Wait a minute, how many people have spoken to this? How many people have spoken to this article? Anybody? I'll take the vote because you've made the motion. It's been my habit to take the vote. But I think it's reasonable to have some people speak. Has it been seconded? Been moved and seconded? All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion is lost. Recognize the gentleman at the front.
My name is Mike Scanlon. I'm a member of the school committee. Just like to respond to Jean's statement relative to the high school and her statement relative to the junior high programs of teaming. Over the year, we've had several educational reports to the committee. We do it at the local, we do it at the region. We've had two reports from our administrators, Mac Reed and Steve Donovan, both very creative. This move that we've done in teaming, and I thank Jean for mentioning it, I think is a true investment in our educational process. We're blessed with particularly talented and dedicated administrators who are looking forward. We've exercised an option at the junior high level for this teaming that we're recommending to you tonight. It's an investment. It's looking forward to decreasing our class sizes. It's a true investment, and it's a creative exercise. Steve Donovan, the principal at the high school, presented us with a very creative long-term plan looking forward for us to change structures.
Excuse me, I'm going to ask you to bring your remarks to a close. Really what I meant by indicating that we should have some people speak is some citizens who want to ask some questions or speak pro and con. You're kind of giving, I'm just asking you to bring your remarks to a close.
I'll come very quickly to a
Thank you.
conclusion. What I want to point out is that it's a process, and we have had a presentation by our administrators at the high school looking forward several years, taking into account block scheduling. We're doing experimentations at this juncture,
and we are looking forward to future years and changes. Thank you.
Any other questions? I see no one standing, so we will vote. Surely, go right at, don't strain yourself,
Believe me, I never do.
please.
My name is Caruso, 49 Ethan Allen Drive. And for Mrs. Stuntz, just an observation, are we in any way jeopardizing the state funding by failing to address the mandates that you outlined?
We don't think so. How's that? It would be pretty hard for the Department of Education to start shutting down state funding on a school system with the kind of reputation that AB has. We are continuing to talk with the Department of Education and continuing to try to be one of the leaders that tells them that the 990 hours is not a reasonable mandate to set down from the state. Our state funding for next year is in all likelihood not at all in jeopardy, and we are continuing to work with them.
I see no one else standing, so we'll vote. All in favor of the motion as read, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion carries. It's my understanding that we're now going to take up the Minuteman budget, and then after we deal with Minuteman, it's my understanding that there's going to be a motion to move to the Article 18. Is that correct? Are we going to deal with 14 and 15 before we accept the motion, or what are we going to do?
Mr. Moderator, I don't know if there's a way to get a sense of the meeting as to whether we plow ahead in order and take up sewers first thing tomorrow night, or whether we want to stay and do sewers and move it ahead of Article 16. I don't know how to judge that.
Well, I know how to judge that. We'll ask the town meeting. When all else fails, we'll ask the citizens. That will be novel. I think what we said is we're going to go ahead with 14 and 15, which both deal with Minutemen, which are probably very quick if past history is a precedent. Would you prefer, the question I'll put to you so that I can get an answer that I can understand, is would you prefer then to move over 16 and 17 and take up 18 tonight, or would you rather move ahead with 16? I think what I will ask is how many people would like to jump ahead to 18? All in favor of jumping ahead to 18 tonight, say aye. Opposed, say no. No. We're really right there, aren't we? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do then. We get a sense of a meeting. It's 50-50. So what we'll do is we'll let anybody make a motion that they want. I'm not going to move them out of order.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I think our preference then is to push ahead in order and take up sewers first thing tomorrow night.
All right, we're going to do Article 14. Mr. Wiltz, I'm sorry, could we keep it down a little bit, please? Thank you. Mr. Wiltse moves that the Minuteman Science and Technology High School assessment for the period July 1st, 1997 to June 30th, 1998, in the amount of $326,278 be raised and appropriated in its entirety. Do I hear a second? Mr. Wiltse.
Moderator.
Speak. Is it on?
I hope it's on.
Go. I think it is now.
I don't have a formal presentation. Our assessment this year of $326,000 is down from just over $500,000 last year. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
It's down 35% roughly, is that right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, I think we'll turn for recommendations. Does the Board of Selectmen have a recommendation? Mr. Fredericks?
Board of Selectmen recommend this article.
And the Finance Committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee recommends Article 14. Although the number is much less than last year, it represents a proportional decrease in the number of students attending from Acton. The important numbers are that there was a 7.5% increase in enrollment and a 7.5% increase in the total budget, so they matched. So the Finance Committee recommends a yes vote on this article.
I'm sorry, say the last part again, I don't think
The
it was
Finance Committee recommends a yes vote on this
a
article.
yes vote, okay, thank you. Comment, question? Seeing nobody standing, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion as read under Article 14, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. You see how easy it is when you get a 35% reduction, and you don't present any numbers, you just say, ask away, and no one asks. I don't think you could get away with that, Issa. 15. Mr. Wilsey, by the way, is our representative on the Minuteman School Committee, for those of you who don't know, and he's been doing it for a number of years. And in fact, I think his appointment is up this year, and this is a great time for me to ask. Do you want to do this again for another several years? I hope I'm not putting you on the spot or anything like that.
I'll get back to you.
Okay. Well, I see what you... Okay. Mr. Wilsey moves that the town reallocate its required share of the Minuteman Science and Technology High School district budget in accordance with the regional agreement as permitted by Section 16B of Chapter 71 of the General Laws. Do I hear a second? Okay, Mr. Wilsey, to your motion.
Mr. Moderator, our agreement with 16 towns, the assessment is based on the percentage of the students that are enrolled. Since education reform came into effect, the DOR modifies the numbers that we determine are the correct assessments for each town. This motion allows us to get back to our agreement and assess each member town according to the enrollment.
A comment from the Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen recommend this article.
Finance Committee?
Well, some years our assessment would be up, some years it would be down, but every year we believe this would be fair. The Finance Committee recommends Article 15.
Comment? See nobody standing? We'll vote. Now, let me ask you again before we vote, because I could get a lot of people up asking you questions here, Bob. We'll vote. All in favor of the motion as read, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Okay, we will move to Article 16. It's a capital article dealing with the Acton Public Schools. A 2/3 vote is required. It is a long motion. I will read the motion. Ms. Harding Barrett moves that the town appropriate $665,000 to be expended by the Acton Public Schools for the purpose of remodeling, reconstructing, and making extraordinary repairs to the Conant, Douglas, Gates, Miriam, and McCarthy Town schools, and to the Blanchard Auditorium, including the purchase of equipment, architects and engineers' fees, and that to raise such amount, the treasurer, with the approval of the selectmen, is authorized to borrow $665,000 under General Law, Chapter 44, subparagraph 7, parenthesis 3A and 9, and that the town raise and appropriate $49,875 for the payment of interest and underwriting costs on such borrowing in fiscal year 1998, provided, however, that this vote shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, subparagraph 21C, Proposition 2.5. Amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the borrowing authorized by this vote. Do I hear a second? Ms. Harding Barrett, to your motion.
For the past 4 years, we've been assessing our infrastructure. and preparing lists of needs on a priority basis, essentially creating a multi-year plan. We've engaged in this conversation with the ALG, which is the Acton Leadership Group, and Acton 2001. As you can see, this is the history of our warrant article requests and what the town so kindly voted us. We've been able to achieve quite a lot, but the needs of the buildings and the grounds are perennial, and the only way to save on expensive renovations is to maintain the buildings. So I'm going to let Bill continue with this.
Thank you, Pam. Again, as Pam mentioned, this is the fourth year we've come to the town meeting with the request in this manner. Our original proposal to the school committee, and if you take a look at the slide, you can see we had ADA, which is Americans with Disability Act, items for $86,000, and again, we've been doing that kind of work for the last couple of years. Health, safety, and maintenance items of around $725,000 and a request of $806,000 for technology, for a total of $1,617,690. What the school committee voted to go forward with was $365,000 in terms of health, safety, and maintenance, $300,000 in terms of technology. Again, so the total is $665,000. This article does require a 2/3 vote at this meeting if it's to pass, and it is contingent on a debt exclusion override at the polls. In terms of health, safety, and maintenance, again, there's lots of things that's in the $365,000. This is a list of some of them. Replacing the kitchen freezer at Douglas, exterior lighting at Merriam, replacing the gym floor at Merriam, steam traps in the Blanchard Auditorium, new PA telephone system at Conant and Gates, repair the main valves in the boiler room at Gates, rooftop exhaust fans at Conant, the exterior woodwork at the cafeteria at McCarthy Town, and painting some classrooms at McCarthy Town and Gates. So this is the kinds of things that we would be doing in the health, safety, and maintenance area.
With the technology, it's a somewhat similar situation. We've had our 5-year plan approved by DOE, Department of Education, and by the Information Technology Division of the state of Massachusetts, which is why we were able to receive those 2 grants that amounted to $77,000 that I mentioned earlier. In this case, however, we feel we still need to outfit some of our elementary classrooms, and on this list is what we would buy with the $300,000. We're upgrading computers, buying printers, buying a multimedia computer for each of the K through 4 classrooms. Again, I don't need to read you this, I think. What we're trying to achieve is this kind of a ratio. This means a computer in every classroom. This means 3 computers in a classroom, and this means 3 computers in a classroom.
Okay, there's 3 photos here of a couple of items in the health, safety, and maintenance. This is the Douglas freezer. If you vote this article, it will look somewhat different. Probably not that much different, but at least it'll work. This is 2 photos of the Merriam gym floor. Again, it's the original floor in the gymnasium at Merriam. It's been there since the 50s, and we'd be replacing this floor. You can see it's lifting in a number of places. And this is, if you went over to McCarthy Town and looked at the cafeteria, we'd be replacing all of the woodwork, both the outside and inside in that structure. So those are 3 examples of health, safety, and maintenance items.
We'd like to show you a few examples of the technology part. This is a first grader using email. Email has made our jobs more efficient, teachers, administrators, and students. We also have some pictures of the labs. There is a big controversy in the profession about whether we should have labs or classroom computers. We believe that we need both, and that's partly because we don't have space in our classrooms for too many computers, but also because we feel that we need to have a place where all can come together to learn something at the same time, and also have the opportunity to have them in their classrooms when they're just using them as tools to learn. I'm sure you recognize these smiling faces. Mr. McKenzie, that is the end of our presentation on Article 16.
Okay, from the Finance Committee, please. I mean the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, this article is, as you can see, a normal kind of capital replacement, routine capital replacement thing that we do every year, and it has its own dedicated revenue stream, and the Board of Selectmen recommend it.
Finance Committee?
We recommend in favor of this article. It fits within the 5-year capital plan. We believe that there is a significant amount of capital replacement which must be performed on a continuing basis for both the schools and the town, and we believe that this is the proper method to address it. Subsequently, we recommend a yes vote.
Dr. Donald?
Mary Donald from Taylor Road. This article looks good to me, but I don't know how we can get away with dropping the ADA down to 0. I thought it was mandated.
Dr. Zimmerman?
We have made quite a few adjustments and accommodations following the ADA. We feel that we are at the point where we have made a good faith effort and have in fact made the changes that are absolutely necessary at this time. We anticipate that as we make our alterations for the future, and if we are lucky enough to have some additions in the future, that we will do whatever else we need to do at that time.
Mr. Cady?
Question for Marion. We had a enterprise budget for Marion for a number of years in which we did capital work. We did some heating repairs using the capital budget on that. What is the status of that in terms of, and now that it's taken over effectively totally by the school, is there any, have we spent all the surplus that was available from that enterprise? And can any of that be directed, if it's left, towards these capital items?
Mr. Ryan?
Thank you. There was an article on the warrant that was on the consent warrant, I think it was 7, Merriam Enterprise offset receipts. There's a budget of about $27,000. We only have 2 tenants left in the Merriam building. One is CASE, which is Concord Area Special Education Collaborative Alternative High School. They pay rent. The other is a caterer that's in the kitchen. So the money that's coming in is being used in that revolving account. We'll check with the town at the end of this year to see if there is any surplus revenues in there, because they would have to be voted out by town meeting. So it's a good question. If there are any surplus revenues, they could be voted for some purpose related to the Marion building.
Does the town know if there's any surplus available?
Yeah, that gets closed out every year, and as of this time, there's nothing, nothing excess in there.
Mr. Cadillac?
Mr. Moderator, 2 quick questions. Is this, in looking at the 5-year plan handout, is this amount part of the $2 million shown on 498? Finance Committee?
No, this is on the line other.
Oh, that's the 664 down below?
664, which, in fact, they can't borrow in increments of 4, they have to borrow in increments of 5,000. So it's
But
665.
Well, all right, but it's the debt exclusion?
Yes.
Okay. And, okay, we'll get to the next article. Second question is, any of these replacements involve any asbestos issues? I'm thinking of the floor. And if so, is that in the budget?
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Gentleman at the side microphone.
Thank you. Ed Adelman, 534 Old Stonebrook. I'm sure that all this work needs to be done. I guess my question is, what's the blending of the total dollars of facilities work versus equipment? And I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, for what period of time will the money be borrowed? And I guess that's the question. How much is going to be borrowed? For how long will the money be borrowed, and how much is equipment versus facilities?
The borrowing is really up to the town. I assume they'll do short-term borrowing and probably use band anticipation notes. I think that's the understanding that we have. Again, all I can say is, in terms of the the amount of money that's going for health maintenance and safety and the amount of money that's going to technology. There was a lot of discussion by the school committee, and it was determined that that was a reasonable kind of split, particularly since we're looking at clearly doing some building at the local level. One of those options that we'll be looking at may not be the option we end up doing, but one of the options would be potentially putting some additions on several buildings. If that's the option we go with down the road, one of the attractive features of that is, at least from our perspective, is the state reimburses about 63%, but they require you to bring buildings up to current day codes, and that would be attractive to us in terms of the ADA issues and issues in terms of technology and lots of other things.
The other part of the question, in the technology piece, it's all equipment. In the health, safety, and maintenance piece, most of it is equipment, but clearly there's some support work to get the equipment, to get the rest of the building up to shape to take that equipment. If you saw the list, and had a chance to really read it, you would see that most of it is, in fact, additional work on the building and on equipment in the building.
Thank you. I guess my concern is that we don't borrow money for too terribly long period of time to pay for classroom computers.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes,
In answer
Mr.
to
Kavanaugh.
Mr. Adelman's other question, the equipment will be borrowed over 5 years, and the buildings will go anywhere from 10 to 20 years, depending on the use.
All right, is there any other comment? If not, we will vote. This requires a 2/3 majority, so it must be unanimous or counted. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. It is unanimous. Motion carries unanimously. Article 17, dealing with capital equipment or capital article for the Acton Boxborough Regional Schools. Ms. Stuntz moves that the town approve the amount of $900,000 debt authorized by vote of the Acton Boxborough Regional School Committee on March 27, 1997, for the purpose of remodeling and make extraordinary repairs to regional high school buildings, including any architect's fees, and for the purchase of equipment and other costs incidental thereto. Do I hear a second?
Mm-hmm.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Stuntz, to your motion.
This is an article about Nesbit's. That is what we call, by their brand name, the heat, ventilating, and air conditioning units on top of the high school. I've sat on the school committee for 9 years. For 9 years, I've heard about Nesbit's. I've heard about how they have needed repair. I've heard about how they are no longer, the ones we have are no longer manufactured. I've heard about cannibalizing other units across the nation to get the parts that are needed. I've heard about this for a long time, as have other members of the school committee. If you look at the capital warrant article slide, which was put up before, you will see that what the requests have been in the regional schools, again, similarly to the local schools. There are lists of things that need to be done: maintenance, health, safety, all those items that need to be done. This year, the list was quite long, and it was narrowed down to one item, and that is a $900,000 request for replacing the Nesbit's. This article will replace and install high school exhaust fans, replace the high school mammoth unit, replace 8 rooftop units at the high school, and repair the heating and ventilation unit in the high school new gymnasium. How will we pay for this? As has been mentioned in the previous presentations, the regional schools have a debt level that we have maintained more or less evenly over the years. This year, in fiscal 97, we had a higher debt level, $933,000, because we were just finishing paying off an old debt, and we acquired the new debt for this kind of capital warrant article which we asked last year. You will see if this is funded this way through the debt out of the operating budget of the regional schools, you can see that the debt level will stay relatively even at the region until fiscal year '02, where the debt will drop down to $77,000 if we don't have another large capital item, which I couldn't guarantee considering the age of our schools. Again, a few pictures, you can't get by without seeing them. Here's the high school exhaust fan, and then we have the, oh, come on, we had rooftop units and a mammoth unit. Oh, well. What? And poor Don crawled through the snow to take pictures, and we don't even get them. But anyhow, you get the gist. They're giant things that keep us hot, cold, and hopefully even-tempered and temperatured at the high school. And I would request that you vote this for $900,000 to keep and the way we will fund it is keeping the debt level even at the region through the operating budget. Thank you.
Okay, from the Board of Selectmen, their recommendation?
Yes, this is I have a few words to say. First of all, the Board of Selectmen are definitely in favor of doing this project. Our recommendation, however, is that we should do it. We recommend it if it is contingent upon a debt exclusion override. It's $900,000 we're spending, and we do recognize that, in fact, the debt structure being what it is for the regional schools, the debt line on the operating budget does stay relatively even and is paid off in 2 years, as the slide indicated. However, the debt service on the operating budget, if this were a debt exclusion override, would go to essentially zero, and it would leave a lot more room in future years, in particular, beginning the majority of it beginning in the year 2000, to accommodate the known increases that are going to be needed to operate our schools. There's going to be some talk associated with school expansion here pretty soon, and with school expansion comes additional needs associated with operating the schools, and just seems to us, just when you have the need for operating needs and operating monies, you suck up those monies with debt service, when from the very beginning you might be able to obviate that by through funding it from its own revenue stream from a debt capital override. Thank you.
From the Finance Committee, Mr. Steinhilfer.
We recommend this article as written in the warrant. We are convinced that the replacement of these items should have been performed as part of an ongoing capital replacement project. Unfortunately, this was not done, so we need to replace them all at once. We believe this is a necessary expenditure and recommend the approval of this article as written.
Other comment? Mr. Cady?
Just one brief comment. I think the town owes a great debt of appreciation to Steve Deasy and his crew, who've kept these units operating longer than any units in the history of the United States. Steve, you've done a great job.
Mr. Cadillac?
I'm just a little bit confused. Are we going to have a debt exclusion override? Are we not? Have the selectmen changed the deal? I only heard the motion as you read it, which does not have a debt exclusion override in it. Is that correct?
Mr. Moderator?
Kabikoff.
As the motion exists at this moment, it is not contingent upon a debt exclusion override.
So that's what we will be voting on?
As of this moment, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Grasser?
Quick question. Do I then understand that the Board of Selectmen disapprove of the article?
The Board of Selectmen recommend the article contingent
No,
upon...
do they disapprove the article as moved?
I would say that we're looking at it from a positive perspective.
Mr. Moderator.
No.
Let me finish.
You may ask the question in any way you like, as long as it's in a nice tone of voice.
All right. I read from the warrant that the Board of Selectmen recommend it contingent upon the debt exclusion override. My understanding of the English language means that if it is without a debt exclusion override, you do not recommend it. Am I correct?
That could be correct.
I think the town understands the position very well.
Thank you. I would like to make the point, however, that a little bit of the syntax needs to be clarified. We're for the project. Definitely, from a health and safety perspective, these units need to be replaced. And there's never been any debate on the Board of Selectmen in that regard.
I've always thought it was good to quit when you were behind. Any other comment?
Moderator?
Yes.
There's a little bit of a complexity in the English language here also, is that the position is as it is written, but there are alternatives beyond yes and no here, and the board has not, to my knowledge, taken a position other than the current one. It would then have to go and vote a subsequent position. Follow this. We are recommending it if it's subject to an override. We have not taken a position otherwise. I, for example, among those, am supporting the recommendation that it be done with an override. If it is not done with an override, given the choice of doing it or not doing it, I'm going to vote in favor of doing it. So it is not simple in that regard.
Well, that certainly cleared things up for me, Bill. Is there anybody else who would like to add to this? Yes, Mr. Edelman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I guess I haven't been here all night like everyone else, so maybe I'm more refreshed. But perhaps then someone could tell me where the money's coming from, if not from a debt exclusion override.
Mrs. Stuntz.
The money's coming from the regional operating budget.
Which we just voted.
Well, this will, Bill, we would not start borrowing until 99. It would come, our debt service in the regional operating budget would be level funded with this project. Our other project will end at the end of this year. This project will start to be funded next year, fiscal 99, at the same level that we are funding the current project. So it is a level funding of the debt service to be taken out of the regional budget regional budget operating budget.
So are any funds from the budget we just voted directed towards this project?
No,
Okay.
because we don't have to borrow until 99.
Okay. Then, Mr. Moderator, I've never. Oh.
Yes, go ahead.
No, there's more answer coming.
Yeah, if this were approved, maybe. If the town meeting were to approve this, and we borrowed July 1 of 97, we would not have to make an interest payment until July 1 of 98, which is fiscal year 99. That interest payment would be approximately $40,000. And what you heard Lee say was that basically we would keep our debt service level in the out years at around $475,000, about where it is now, and that's how we would pay for it. So our debt next year, when you voted the regional budget, is $450,000. For 99, for 99, it could be 475, and then the last year it would go to around $77,000.
And the projected life of the improvement?
Well, the rooftop units that are there, I don't know if Mr. Richter is still here, but When were they put up, Ed? In the 60s? 66? So we've gotten about 31 years out of the existing units, so hopefully maybe we could get another 25 years out of the new ones.
At the indulgence of the moderator, I've never done this before in 10 years of coming to these meetings, but I wanted to, I've never even had these words cross my lips, propose an amendment to the article.
Well, no, go right ahead. I mean, I think this is the fun of town meeting before we're going to adjourn in, you know, a few minutes to
Exactly.
get a good amendment on the floor.
Well, I would propose an amendment to make this warrant article subject to the passage of a debt exclusion override.
Well, I understand the purpose of what you want to do, but you are going to have to come up here on the stage and work out the specific words to that with the town council and anyone else who wishes to help him.
Mr. Moderator?
Well, yes, Mr. Cadillac.
Just to complicate life, is this amendment within the scope of the article?
I would say that it is. I would say that it is, because we're here to talk about borrowing money, and it's just a different method of financing that money, and I would rule that it is. Let me do this, though, to make sure, because it's a borderline issue, which I haven't really studied very carefully. I think I'll ask the town council.
That's what we pay him for.
Now, in Mike's careful thinking of this over a long period of time, he and I have concurred that it is within the scope of the article.
That makes it official.
Yes. It may not make it right, but it's official. No, it is correct. It is correct. Yes.
In the intervening moments, I have something I might read drafted.
Oh, good.
Effect of the motion,
Good.
yes. Don't believe in wasting our townspeople's time. My motion would be the following. I move that the motion be amended by adding at the end of the motion the words, quote, what's that mean? Provided, however, that this approval shall not be effective unless the town votes to exempt from the limitation on local taxes imposed by, if you believe it, GL Section 59, Part 21C, which is Proposition 2.5, amounts required to pay the principal and interest on the borrowing approved by this vote, close quote.
Do we have a second to that amendment? It's been moved and barely seconded. We have a copy of that here. I guess we will, just for the fun of it. Let me grab that.
I would just add that it's Chapter 59, Section 21C. And if you take that amendment to
Okay, now we can speak to this. You've been standing sometime, sir. I'm going to let you speak first,
Thank you.
because you've been standing some time. Only to the amendment now.
Only to the amendment.
Right.
Dan Klein.
Remember, I've been tricked once tonight already on this.
I couldn't trick you if I tried. Dan Klein, Old Stone Brook, lest anybody doubt we need a good educational system, I think this proves it. A clarification, if this amendment were to not pass, would we effectively be voting to borrow this money from ourselves? I'm trying to clarify what happens if I vote against the amendment.
Well, technically, you're back to the motion as unamended. Where the money is going to come from, Mrs. Stunts is just going to answer that question now.
It's up to you folks where the money comes from. I mean, it will be in our operating budget. We will borrow the money. short-term borrowing. The region will then carry the debt, and we will have a debt service to pay on that until it is paid off.
From ourselves.
We aren't borrowing the money from ourselves, but we are paying it back over a period of time.
Are we borrowing it from a bank?
Yes.
Yes.
We are borrowing it from a bank.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Mrs. Stuntz, you had something to say about the
would-
amendment.
The amendment,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
The amendment. I would urge you to defeat this amendment. The reason why the school committee did not put it up for a debt exclusion override originally was that, frankly, this is too important. We do feel we can keep our debt service even over the next 5 years. We feel as if we really, really need those units. We could have a $200,000 bill or a $300,000 bill or a $400,000 bill tomorrow on those units. We think that this is a reasonable and logical way to pay for something that is that important. And we would urge you to defeat this amendment so that we can use a level funding of the debt service at the regional level in order to get these much-needed units.
Now, this may surprise you, but the Finance Committee in real time has already voted a position on this amendment, and we'll discuss it with you now.
Actually, we voted before the meeting began. So, but we knew this amendment was coming. We recommend against the amendment as a debt exclusion. We believe that, we agree with schools, we believe that the debt burden can be carried within the school budget, and so we recommend defeat of this amendment.
The gentleman at the side microphone.
If this amendment passes, does the original motion require a two-thirds vote then?
That's a good question because of the nature of the article itself, and I'm going to have to ask the town council that. I don't know. It did not require a two-thirds vote prior to this.
No, it requires a majority vote, just as it did before.
Mr. Cadillac.
I find myself in rear agreement with the school committee, but for a slightly different reason.
Wow. First.
Any debt exclusion override raises your taxes. Let's vote against it. We're going to have plenty of opportunities to raise our taxes on other issues.
Mr. Cady? Katie.
If you were to vote this amendment, my understanding is we wouldn't be able to get it into this election that's coming up, and it would be held in abeyance until another election. Isn't that correct? It's not part of the existing ballots, which I've already voted for because I'm not going to be here next week.
That's correct, but the article just preceding this was contingent on an override, so we have to hold an election within 45 days of the close of town meeting for that article. That's what a contingency does.
So there is a provision to get it voted on, but as I said before, the miracle worker, Mr. Deasy, it can only perform so many miracles, and if anything happened to these units, there's no more parts. You can't get them anywhere in the United States anymore. Just like a car, after a while, 25 years from now, you go to try to fix your old 56 Chevy that's sitting in the driveway, it costs you a fortune to get it fixed. These cannot be fixed. Absolutely, they're gone. So we've got to do it right away.
Gentleman at the front.
Yeah, Don Perkins, Spring Hill Road. Am I correct in my understanding that if we vote for the amendment and it passes, and then the override fails to pass, we don't get any units on the roof?
Correct. I see no one standing. We will vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. All opposed, say no. The amendment is lost. You know, when I write my book, it doesn't really get as good as Norm Lake's comment about the fire engine a few years ago, though. All right, we are back on discussing the motion unamended. Yes, sir.
We've had enough amusement for one night. I move the previous question.
Second. All in favor of cutting off debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Debate is cut off. We'll now vote on the motion as read. It is unamended. All in favor of the motion as read originally, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move to adjourn this meeting until tomorrow night at 7:30 in the high school auditorium, where we will take up sewers first thing.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We're adjourned until tomorrow night at 7:30.